Coffee was first introduced to Nigeria in the late 19th century, with the first recorded exports taking place in 1896. It was a major cash crop for farmers in the country for decades. However, since the beginning of the 21st century, the country's coffee production has declined. While Nigerian farmers grew and harvested some 89,000, that is 60 kilogram bags of coffee in 2006, this figure has fallen by more than 50% in just 15 years. In the 1930s, just a few decades after coffee was introduced in Nigeria, the government started to promote its cultivation by making both Arabica and Robusta seeds available to farmers across the country. Now, less than 100 years on, coffee production in the country faces a number of issues. Availability of land for the cultivation of coffee has drastically fallen. Today, Robusta accounts for 90% of all coffee exports in Nigeria. It is grown in 14 states across the country, including Oyo, Ogun, Ondo, Ekiti, Kwara, Kogi, Edo, Delta, Abia, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Taraba, Bauchi and Plateau States. Mr. Richard Ali is the founder of Tigray Coffee, a Nigerian brand that promotes domestically grown coffee. He speaks about the brand and the state of Nigerian coffee production.
Without a doubt, Nigerians are coffee drinkers. The market is dominated by instant coffee of various types. And, coffee and bread, tea and bread, they are interchangeable in Nigeria today. Several billions of dollars of coffee is sold in this country each and every day. So I would say that yes, while Nigerians drink a lot of things in the mornings, they also drink coffee in considerable numbers. Now, that is one of the issues, and that's where our company, Tigray Coffee Company, comes from. Most of the coffee that is sold in Nigeria are foreign brands, but we feel that Nigerian coffee has a place on the Nigerian table, and as well as continentally, regionally, we should be able to put Nigerian coffee on the map. Therefore, what we are doing is to mainstream Nigerian coffee all over the world.
Let me see. The aroma is rich.
This is the Kwararafa light roast particularly, and Kwararafa light roast comes from Taraba State, Nigeria, particularly the Mambila Plateau. So we source our coffee from Gembu, which is a major town in Taraba State where coffee is grown. Now, it's interesting that you mentioned that because the same volcanic eruptions that created the Rift Valley in East Africa are the same volcanic eruptions that created the Mambila Plateau, the Jos Plateau. And that similar sort of elevation, that similar sort of profile is what gives coffee growing in these regions the strong aroma that you have perceived. So Nigerian coffee is something very, very important, and it can stand in its place anywhere. The thing with coffee is that it can actually grow almost anywhere. All right, so long as, of course, in some climates, the first step when you are growing coffee is to do a soil analysis, and then you'd be able to know what additions you can add to the soil in order to make it grow the coffee. But often than not, the most prized for the sake of aroma, for the sake of presence, are the highland coffees, and these often grow at elevations. And in Nigeria, the best places that have the sort of elevation to give this quality of coffee are the Mambila Plateau and the Jos Plateau. I think coffee is one of Nigeria's best kept secrets, but it is now time for us to let this secret out. Nigerian coffee belongs in the cafes in Europe, in America, in East Africa, everywhere, because it is a coffee that has presence, that is full-bodied, and it can stand anywhere that you're talking of international quality coffees, but most people do not know. Now, one of the main problems that we have is the quantities, because, for example, a standard New York contract is 16 tons. So if Nigeria is going to be on that coffee conversation, we need to think in units of 16 tons. So the output is not as high as the countries of East Africa, of Brazil and Venezuela and all those places. So we need to, of course, increase farming, add more technology to the farms, and then add value, which is what we are trying to do. Over the last 5 years, companies like Tigray Coffee, like my company, have come up to mainstream this culture. Often than not, it is urban, whether it's in the opening of cafes, in partnerships like the one we have with Roving Heights, and out of pop-ups and similar events like that. So, and the feedback has always been positive. The feedback has always been really, really supportive. Often than not, Nigerians do not know that Nigeria produces coffee and such great coffee as this, but the minute they know about it, Nigerians always tell other people. There's no day that passes and a new person doesn't come and say, oh, my friend said this coffee, and they come and try it. So even though these are the early days of marketing Nigerian coffee, I think that the future is bright, and Nigeria's size and the Nigeria's enthusiasm for Nigerian coffee is something that we're going to be able to bank on.
I'm looking at, based on what you said, it appears the farming of this coffee is still in small holdings.
Yes, absolutely. It's dominated by smallholder farmers. 2 hectares, 3 hectares, 10 hectares, small groups. All right, so now we don't want to destroy the smallholder farmers, but then it's necessary for them to have access to the agric extension that they require, to the right technology, to the right seeds. And this is where the government comes in. But it has to be a partnership. It can't be a government-led investment. It has to also involve the private sector, such that the private sector brings their own powers, and then the government also brings this, and would be able to, over a 7 to 10 year period, increase the amount of coffee that we grow and market it nationally, regionally, and continentally, and even further than that. And more importantly, coffee is one of those things that would give us a lot of foreign exchange, which is something that the Nigerian government has always been very, very welcome. So I believe that this is an investment that would pay for itself.
Tigray Coffee is determined to change the face of coffee production in Nigeria. It is determined to drive the expansion of the value-added chain of coffee, which would make Nigeria a producer and net exporter of quality coffee products.